I'd like to welcome those who have joined us, and I'd like to thank those who agreed to be panelists. This came about because we administrators of music teachers put in place approval for all posts. And as I was approving posts, I kept noticing an overriding theme. And that theme was the fear and anxiety having to suddenly teach virtually rather than in person, or teach in a hybrid situation between virtual teaching and learning and in-person learning. So I decided that we should probably try to address that in some kind of way. And when I brought the idea to the administrative team, everyone graciously accepted the invitation to join in on this. And this grew to become a much bigger and what I hope a much more effective way of us being able to talk about different things that have everyone a little anxious and a little concerned about just what's going to happen. And one of the things that I want to be an overriding theme of this is that you are not alone. Overcoming the fear of this is probably the most difficult thing that you're going to do, because as I've said on several posts that I've put in Music Teachers, we are teachers first. Those of us who are conductors or directors direct after we have culminated the teaching process. We have achieved those things that we wanted to achieve in the learning process with our students and the cooperative learning with our students. And we have become teachers more so than directors or conductors. So with that in mind, as we go into tonight's session, we're going to be talking about different ways of being able to overcome the fears and overcome the anxiety of this new frontier. And hopefully, eventually, we will be out of this. But no matter how long we are in this, I want this to be a resource so that everybody can see that there are places to go. There are resources that you can have and questions that you can have answered. And you can contact those of us who are on the panel for any of the questions or concerns that come up after we have concluded this. So I'm going to turn things over to Tiffany Walker and ask her to give us some information about each of the panelists.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tiffany Walker. I'm daughter of Ron Kearns, and I have the pleasure of introducing everybody. Before I introduce everyone, I just put into the chat that I will be monitoring the chat as well as introducing the speakers. If you have any questions, please hover over participants if you can and try to find my name. That way we can keep all questions in one area, in one central area. If you cannot find my name, that's fine. I'll still be monitoring the chat and jotting down notes as to what questions are asked. But I will be posting into the chat the information for each person as I give the bio as to how to contact them. So our first speaker today is Richard McCready, who I had the pleasure of him being my middle school teacher. Richard McCready teaches music at River Hill High School in Clarksville, Maryland. He was recognized as the 2013 Time Teacher of the Year for his work with music technology, and has also received the Maryland Outstanding Music Educator Award and the Howard County Music Teacher of the Year Award. If people wish to contact him about this evening's presentation, you can contact him at ramccready@icloud.com. I will be posting that, as well as some notes that he gave me to send to you all. It's just a quick Google document for everybody to be able to see. It should say HTTPS, the tiny URL. Take it away, Mr. McCready.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to see you. But you're all in very, very small little boxes. It's like watching Celebrity Squares again. One of the things you can do when every person is presenting, you can hover over the three little dots at the top of their picture, and then you can pin that video so you can see that person bigger until the next person comes along. So that might help with your trying to watch Celebrity Squares here. So I'm excited about this evening. I'm so excited to see so many of you here who are excited about what's going to be happening, nervous about teaching, but hopefully excited about teaching. I know I am. I'm very excited about what's going to come. Some of you have already started. Some of you won't start till September, but each of you is wanting to find out new things, and that's really, really wonderful. There's an old, adage about people that there's some people that they want to teach music for 30 years, and there's some people that want to teach the same year 30 times. And you are not those people. You are the people that want to teach for 30, 35, 40 years. And you're the people that want to reinvent yourself. And you've seen that opportunity. When we closed down school on March 13th and I was heading home, I was thinking, how do I reinvent myself? Because I don't know if I'm coming back to school, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. And I started to see the places around me reinvent themselves. Dunkin' Donuts reinvented itself for COVID-19 so they could continue to sell donuts. They continued to sell coffee and donuts and bagels. They continued to sell exactly the same stuff, but they reinvented how they got it to us. The Walgreens up here at the corner of Happy and Healthy, it did the same thing. It reinvented. And I thought, how do I reinvent myself as a teacher if I'm in my little square foot studio here versus in my huge lab at Riverhill High School? And I thought of those people that used the opportunity to reinvent. I mean, did you know that Galileo invented modern astronomy while he was in isolation? Did you know that Sir Isaac Newton invented calculus when he was in isolation? Did you know that Les Paul, my hero, invented modern recording, multi-track recording, while in isolation? He went into his garage for a year and a half to try to find a new sound to reinvent himself. And this was a man who was already on top of his game as a jazz guitarist and Bing Crosby's backup guy. So I want to encourage you to try to think about ways to reinvent yourself. And I know that the people you're going to hear from later on in this presentation are going to give you some great, great resources to do that. I'm just batting lead off tonight. And I'm hoping to get to first base as fast as possible and have these guys bring me home. That's what it's about tonight. So let me share my screen with you because Tiffany has put into the chat oops, Robbie, you've disabled screen sharing. Could you enable that for me? That would be really nice. Thank you for doing that. It still says I'm disabled. Can you try it again, Robbie? All right. Well, Tiffany has sent you the URL, and you could bring that up. What I was hoping was that people would be able to see that, but I can go through that as we go. And so I can go through the things that are there. What I want you to think about is what Ron alluded to earlier. You are a music teacher first and foremost. And you don't want to reinvent your content. You want to reinvent your methods. You're still teaching kids to love music. You're still teaching kids to put 4 quarter notes in a measure and come up with 4. You're still teaching them to play with good sound. You're still teaching them to be musical, and you're still teaching them to make music every single day. So continue to teach music. Don't worry about, but I teach band. No, think I teach music. And if you continue to teach music and not worry about how your band sounds this year, I bet you next year your band will sound even better because you've really focused on music this year. Think about the kids. I'm a high school teacher. I teach guitarists and I teach music tech kids. If I maintain their interest in their instrument, I will retain those kids. Retain the kids' interest in the instrument. Let them do projects about their favorite people, about their favorite albums, their favorite music. Don't say to them, this month's composer of the month is Monteverdi, and next month we're going on to Gabrielli. You'll lose them. Let them come to you, and if you have a trumpeter, say it's a girl trumpeter, and she comes along and she says, I want to study about Alison Balsom. Can I do a project on Alison Balsom? Yes. Or if you have a black kid that plays the trumpet that says, I want to learn about Wynton Marsalis, or I want to learn about, Louis Armstrong. Don't say to them, no, well, Maurice Andre is the only one on our curriculum. Let that kid do a project which mirrors them, because when that kid looks in the mirror, believe me, they don't just see on the surface what's looking back. They see their heroes looking back, and they see a very, very deep version of their hero, which reflects them as a person and who they want to be as a musician. Let that happen. Think of your own heroes. I think of Les Paul and what that man means to me as a musician. And think of that. Let those kids, and if they're able to do projects and do stuff, they will love it. And Katie Wardrobe will later on show you, I'm sure, all sorts of wonderful things about Pinterest and Wakelet and all the great things they can do to do that. Remember that performance is a wonderful, wonderful thing. We know that. And we have a privilege of doing performance. I have a privilege of teaching with 20 other kids rocking out on guitars every day. No other teacher gets that. You know, we get the privilege of teaching music through performance. In many countries, that privilege has to be done after school. When I started in the UK, I was unpaid for doing jazz band and choirs after school. It's a great privilege if you have it in your school. Performance is wonderful, but what an opportunity. Performance is only a quarter of the standards, and you still have 3 other standards, which are creating, responding, and connecting. Those are huge. Think of the things you can do in creation and responding and connecting. And I know that Jim Frankel later on will show you many things in Music First which get you there. Music First is such an incredible vehicle for getting kids to create, perform, respond, connect. And let me tell you something that's very important about that connect thing in the standards. Many people misinterpret standards 10 and 11, the connecting standards. The point of connecting is to connect that kid to the art around them. It's to connect what they do in their praise band in church. It's to connect what they do in their brass band. It's to connect what they do when they just sit at home and thumb around on the guitar in front of the TV. It's to connect to what's going on in school. The point of Anchor Standard 10 is in the last 3 words, to make art. The point of Anchor Standard 11 is in the last 3 words, to deepen understanding. These do not say to come up with something to accompany my biology project. And many people think that the connect means, oh, I've got to connect to math, or I've got to connect, or I've somehow got to tell people that my subject is a language or my subject is mathematics to justify my position in the curriculum. Absolute rubbish. Music is what justifies your position in the curriculum. So get those kids to connect to themselves, and it'll be absolutely wonderful what they can do. Oh, it looks like I can finally share my screen. All right, so you can now see the notes which I have put for you, right? Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this one and put this over here. Can you see those notes now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So here's where I'm up to, creating, responding are the other parts. How big is your opportunity to do creating, responding, connecting? And the stuff has been done for you in terms of the programs and the interface which you can have to do creating, responding, connecting have all been invented by people doing music technology for the last 20 years. And so you have a huge opportunity. One of the things I would suggest to you is to upgrade your presenting game. When you are teaching virtually, you're going to be a YouTube channel for the kids. And think about the YouTube that they watch. And watch someone like a Daniel Huang who does amazing videos of music and see how slick it is. Now, nobody's saying that you're going to be able to do a massive, full-scale 17-camera production. But if you can up your game, it's going to make your presentation better for the kids, and it's going to create more engagement. The first thing I would suggest, if you just do one, is to upgrade your microphone to a USB microphone. A USB microphone will allow you to talk in your normal voice without sounding tinny. Have you ever turned off one of those TV programs because people are speaking in boxes, on the sports channels or the news? You see something, you're like, I can't stand that voice, I have to turn it off. I had that the other day. I had waited all day to watch this interview with Alison Brown, who's one of my favorite banjo players. And the guy that was interviewing her, his microphone was so bad I couldn't stand it. I had to turn it off. Imagine if kids are watching 5, 6, 7, 8 videos a day of live of their teachers, but you're the one with the nice voice that they feel comfortable with. A USB microphone, a blue mic, maybe 40, 50 bucks, will plug into your computer and it will really up your game and your kids will feel much more comfortable. It's a really good upgrade. As a music teacher, you may want to try an audio interface. Okay? An audio interface allows you to have multiple inputs, like this one. This is it's upside down, a PreSonus audio box. All right, it allows me to have two inputs in the front and I can monitor them, so I can put one microphone in and I can put one instrument in. Therefore, I don't have to keep switching microphones or move my microphone to hear my piano. You know, I can just, you know, I have my piano right here. I can play and talk at the same time, and the sounds are separated because of the audio interface. So two microphones, one of them is in front of a little keyboard amp. And so that's enabling me, it's upping my game. So level 1 would be a USB mic. Level 2, maybe get an audio interface like a Focusrite or a PreSonus $100 audio interface with two inputs. Use two microphones. It's really going to help you. Another thought is to get a second camera. You already have a camera on your laptop, but it's not a very good one. It's not very good for reading things very clearly. If you have a second one connected, you can actually switch to that. For example, I'll try switching to mine. And if you look at me now, hopefully, can you see that my camera has switched? Has it switched? It's turned on.
There you go.
It looks like it's still on me. Can you see my keyboard? My piano? I'm not sure. Anyway, for some reason, because of the number of people we have. But I have, you know, this second camera, which is just sitting on my keyboard. I can switch this in Zoom or Google Meet so that I can use this camera to point to things. Things like my keyboard, things like my fretboard on guitar. And that enables the kids to see stuff clearly rather than me try to hold things up to the camera. All right. Now it does work in class, but it might not be working on this larger Zoom platform, but that's okay. But it's a $40 camera, and it just plugs in and it gives me that option to be able to do that. So that's just something very useful. Another thing to up your game is to understand that if you have a piano keyboard, you have MIDI out as well as audio out. My audio out is going to my little amplifier, which is then going to my audio interface. But with MIDI as well, I can go into Soundtrap, I can go into Soundation, I can go into Noteflight, and I can control all of these things with just one keyboard. So it's like multi-purpose. And if you have an old school type 5-pin MIDI connection on the back, that'll actually go into most audio interfaces. If you have a modern USB, it'll go into a USB port, and that'll really help. But it'll up your studio, and it'll up your game. And now I know all these things can be a little bit of expense, and we teachers tend to have a habit of saying, oh, what should I spend my money on? I know, I'll go make 100 egg shakers for the kids. Maybe it's time to think, well, should I just invest in that USB microphone? Should I go out and get something like the Casio Tone CT100? It's a really cool keyboard for less than 200 bucks. Sounds great, and it has MIDI. And so you can then connect that to Noteflight and to Soundtrap and to all sorts of things. And then you can be comfortable within your own space. You are inviting kids into your space to be with you. This is a complete invasion of our own homes and our privacy. But if you set it up as your studio and you set yourself up efficiently and make it look really slick, the kids will be there. I had 100% participation from my kids in COVID all the way to the last week. And that wasn't happening in other classes. And I had a colleague in a neighboring county that was getting nobody showing up to his band classes. But kids were all coming to my class. And at the end of it, at the evaluations, they said, "Thank you for making us feel comfortable. We loved spending time with you making music." And they did that not because I'm a great teacher or anything, or not because I had anything special. I wasn't giving out cookies, or I wasn't going down to the Dunkin' Donuts and telling them to deliver to the kids if they came to my class. It was just that I reinvented myself, and I said, "I'm going to make this comfortable for you, and I'm going to teach you music, and I'm going to keep you as music." And in fact, another thing, I went up from 5 classes to 8. They have to now give some of my classes to somebody else because I accidentally overfilled my load of kids that want to take my class during COVID next year. All right, and they're taking music, and that's a wonderful thing. So that's my lead off. I'm going to run to first base, and I'm going to hold it there as the heavy hitters come behind me and let you know some of the great things that you can do to expand your horizons for teaching. Thanks everybody for being here, and thanks for paying attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Our next speaker is Thomas J. West. Thomas J. West is an active music teacher, composer, adjudicator, and clinician in the greater Philadelphia area. He has over 20 years of experience as a concert band director, marching band director, jazz improvisation instructor, choral director, orchestra director, private instructor, arranger and composer, and marching drill writer in the states of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. He has served as a music adjudicator for Drum Corps International since 2016. He has served as a music, visual, and jazz judge for the Cavalcade of Bands Association since 2008. He also sings professionally with Keystone, a cappella, and performs as a freelance clarinetist, saxophonist, and flutist. He currently is the instrumental music teacher, jazz studies instructor, and blended learning coordinator for Pennsylvania Leadership Charter Schools Center for Performing and Fine Arts. He holds a bachelor's degree in music education from Penn State University, was an associate director for the Warren Junior Military Band of Youngstown, Ohio from 1995 to 2005, and holds memberships in NAFME, PMEA, JEN, ASCAP, and CASA. I'll be dropping his info in the chat.
Thank you, Tiffany. So I wanted to kind of lead off with my segment to say that I have my hand in many pots when it comes to, as you heard in my bio, I've taught just about everything there is out there at some point in time. But my greatest love and what made me into the person that I am today was band, and particularly marching band. I loved marching band in high school. I was in the Penn State Blue Band. I marched in the Cadets Drum Corps. And that was my whole reason for that I turned into the person that I am. And it was those ensemble experiences that taught me teamwork, that taught me musicianship, and were the formation of who I am as a person, who I am as a musician. It became really clear to me, though, when I started my teaching career, that I wanted my students to have more than that. Having those experiences was super important to me, and being able to design shows and plan concerts and conduct and all of that was part of that experience. But I wanted them also to be individual musicians. I wanted them to be able to know basic music theory and write a melody for their instrument that they could play themselves. I started in my first teaching job. We had a winter and spring concert, but then in April, we also had a chamber music concert where I gave them time during the week, starting in January, to split into small groups and pick out chamber repertoire and rehearse themselves. And then the product that they got in that April concert was theirs and theirs alone. So, you know, the quality level was up to them. And I found over time that it was really difficult in the traditional mode of scholastic band, chorus, and orchestra to find ways to work that individual growth into things and to find creativity for composing, arranging, improvising, and working that into things. So my career led me to PA Leadership Charter School and CPFA. And when I stepped into that school, it's a cyber charter school, but the performing arts program is an on-site program where I have middle school kids on Mondays and Wednesdays and high school kids on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then the other 3 days of the week, they're at home doing the rest of their courses online. But they're there for a full school day at CPFA, taking any combination of music, art, dance, or theater that they want. And my classes are very small. And so I didn't have a full-size concert band. I didn't have a full-size string ensemble. And I ended up doing a lot of hybrid things where I would buy string ensemble scores and then transpose the oboe part. I transposed the violin 1 part for the flute and the oboe, and I would give the clarinets the violin 2 part, and I would have to make it work. And the other thing that I started doing around the beginning of that time was teaching online private lessons. Back before there was such a thing as Take Lessons and other music face and other services now where you can be a teacher online and teach video camera private lessons. I was doing that back in 2008 when that was relatively a new thing. So I've been doing a blended learning model in my teaching for this will be year 12 that I've been doing that, and doing lessons like this in Zoom. I have students that are on site with me, but I also have students that are in our remote access program who could be anywhere in the state of Pennsylvania. They work with me one-on-one once a week on their music, and then they commute in for our winter concert. They show up. We have the dress rehearsal and the concert the same day, and they get to be on stage with everybody else, and you could never tell the difference between the kids who were doing it remotely and the ones that were in the same room with me the whole semester. So I've been able to use technology and our learning management system as a platform to give students opportunities not just to play in ensembles, but also to be creative and to learn some things about music theory. And for me, this year is going to be about, since my school is starting completely online, and we will be possibly staying online the entire year. So for me, that's okay. Well, I'm not going to have my ensemble classes. How am I going to do things differently? And I'm going to share my screen here with you, and I'm also going to post this link in the chat if you want to look at it directly. And what I did was I put together basically my plans for what I'm going to do this school year. And let me go and put that in the chat real quick. There we go. So you can take a look at that, and feel free to share this this document with whoever. I have my learning is going to be completely online this year, and really for me the only difference that creates is that instead of having a winter and a spring concert, we're going to be doing studio recording projects. I actually did one of these this past spring. I'm not going to read this entire document to you. You can kind of scroll through it on your own. I'll kind of hit the highlights on the way. My classes are I have middle school and high school, 6th to 8th grade string ensemble. I teach a modern band hybrid, which is modern band plus a horn section basically, because I don't have a concert band. I have a high school string ensemble and a high school modern band hybrid also. On a normal year where I have live kids in the room with me, participation's about 15% of the grade. And that's your basic participation grade for being in the classroom for the ensemble. For this online, that participation is going to go up a bit because I want to keep them engaged. And they're going to be attending live Zoom sessions with me basically once a week. What I like to do with live virtual lessons like that is I like to, in the body of the session at some point, give them an assignment to do when the virtual lesson is over, that they have to do that assignment to get full credit for attending. So if I have students who can't attend that virtual lesson that day, I'm recording them all and posting the recordings. And in order to get credit for that participation in that Zoom session, even if they couldn't be there in person, they have to go through the video and find the spot where I give them this small assignment. And it might be just something as simple as, you know, record yourself playing an A flat major scale, or it might be write an 8-measure melody for your instrument over these chords, or, you know, I don't even know what it's going to be. I'm going to have to figure some of those out as I do them. That attendance piece is trying to engage them in virtual chats, because like Richard said, they don't get a sense of you as a teacher if you are completely asynchronous. If any of you have ever taken an online course where you never talk to the professor at all, and it's just you going through pages of videos and text and things like that, you never really make a connection with that teacher, and it's really very artificial. So you want to engage them, you want them to participate, and that includes, I record myself on camera like this, doing announcements for the week, or when I have a lot of details to tell them about something, I'll have it on the screen, I'll share my screen, and I'll do screencasts where I'm walking them through the technical aspects of something like Soundtrap or something like that. So that's the participation piece. Technique, I like to make that a pass-fail grade, and just basic musicianship thing, technical proficiencies on their instrument. They can retake it as many times as needed. And there's good ways to do that we can talk about later on. Repertoire in a typical school year, what I do is I give each instrument part an excerpt out of their concert music for the winter concert. I'll usually pick the most technical, most difficult spot in their music, and encourage them to, and then assign them to record a performance of that spot and submit it for a grade. What I have found over the years, I hate the practice chart. Write down 30 minutes of practice a day and then have your parents sign it. All that does is teach kids to fudge numbers and forge their parents' signature. When you ask them to record themselves, all of a sudden they can hear, and, you know, recordings are very unforgiving. You can hear every little flaw. So they hear their recordings and go, oh man, that sounds horrible. And they keep re-recording and re-recording until it gets good, until it gets to a point where they can live with it. And while they're doing that, guess what? They're practicing. So the repertoire piece of this, I try to pick those spots in the concert music that I know is going to be their hardest thing. For this year, with us not having concerts, this repertoire piece is going to be an ensemble piece that I choose, and I distribute the parts to them. And then they're actually going to learn how to do a studio recording. They're gonna record their part at home, and then we're going to put them into Soundtrap, which, if you don't know, is a digital audio workstation software where you can produce music, both recorded and digital with MIDI. And they're going to learn how to make a clean recording. They're going to learn how to upload in the right format. They're going to learn how to do basic editing and mixing. And that's all going to be part of that repertoire grade. The link that I have here is when our school shut down in March, I switched gears to a recording project like this, and each of my ensembles recorded one song that they were supposed to be doing at their spring concert. That recording link is to my combined middle school and high school strings doing Entrance of the Queen of Sheba by Handel. And that's 6th graders all the way up to 12th graders on that recording. And the editing was done by myself and the students from my electronic music class, which we call digital music composition in my school. We did all the editing and mixing, and the kids did all their own recording, and that's what we were able to produce last spring, with me doing the bulk of the work. Now this year, it's going to be the students learning how to do it themselves in Soundtrap. I'm also going to have each of them do a solo project. They can choose from a whole bunch of different ideas. They can do an instrumental solo. They can write an arrangement. Over the years, I've had students who take my classes for honors credit do an honors project in the fall where they choose to conduct, where they pick a piece to rehearse and conduct at the concert. or they can play an instrumental solo, or they can arrange music for the ensembles to play, some of which may be in the concert, some of which may just be in class and that sort of thing. I also, in terms of apps that I use, I've always been a technology guy. That's like my second love behind music. So we are going to be investing in Music First this year. I'm sure Jim Frank will be glad to hear that. I was a beta tester for Smart Music about 10 years ago. Smart Music is a great piece of software for instrumentalists and vocalists to be able to perform with a backing track and record themselves and have the software assess them. Music First has a similar cloud-based product called Practice First. And we'll be using NoteFlight for the composing. We'll be using Sight Reading Factory to test their sight reading skills. And what I think I'm the most excited about is getting kids into Soundtrap. I have not done that in the past, but I'm in the middle of getting a certificate in modern band from Lebanon Valley College, and we've been using Soundtrap consistently through the whole program. So I'm excited about that. I also highly recommend, if you've never seen it, the Tonal Energy Tuner app. It is a tuner metronome app that helps the students learn how to sing in tune, play in tune, sustain a pitch, and keep it steady. It's really a great app. It costs about $4. I encourage my students to buy that app. Not all of them do, but it's only $4, and it's the last app you'll ever need for tuning and metronome work. There are other things there I'll let Jim Frankel talk about that are available in Music First for theory and ear training. There's also a website called Theta Music Trainer, which I haven't used in a while, but I was actually an affiliate with them a while back too, that has online ear training and theory quiz games, and they're games that you play. It's like games that they can play right in their browser. Piggybacking off of what Richard said, students can really get a good recording. The microphones and the cameras on most laptops are not intended for high quality. Even if it's an HD camera, they're not intended for high quality recording. The microphones on most laptops have automatic gain adjustment. So if you do something really loud and then it's followed by something soft, you're not going to hear the soft thing. So softer instruments like acoustic guitar or a violin or something like that, a lot of times those microphones just don't pick up those instruments very well. Most students now, hopefully, have a smartphone of some kind or a tablet. The microphone on your standard cell phone, a smartphone, is usually better than anything you're going to find on a laptop. The students can log into Soundtrap on their phone. They can actually record it directly into the cloud, or they can record it on an app on their phone and then upload it to Soundtrap later on to edit and things like that. And like Richard was saying, for those that want to go the next step, as teachers, I highly recommend it. And for the students who are in a position to afford it, I give them 2 basic setups with the equipment that I recommend. And you'll see the blue Snowball that he mentioned is on there. The audio interface that I really love is the Scarlett 2i2, which looks just like the one he showed you, except it's bright red. The preamp in that particular unit really cuts down on background noise and makes things sound great. A condenser microphone is a good investment. Nice thing about the blue Snowball and the blue Yeti, is that it has multiple capsules inside with a switch, so you can switch between omnidirectional, where it picks up from all directions, or cardioid, where it's pointing straight at you, and it's got a setting for -10 decibels if you're trying to record a trumpet or a trombone or something like that. So those are the setups that I recommend for that. I will tell you that teaching online takes a ton of time. It takes a long time to create the content. It takes a long time to come up with the procedures. You have to train the kids how to use the software. You have to come up with rubrics that are going to work for grading things. And then when all this work comes in from them, you have to have time to grade it. That's why teachers that teach in cyber settings are never bored. They've always got stuff to do. I also have an honors jazz studies class, which is similar to the kind of class you would take at Berkeley or something like that for my honors students in high school. That course is very easily put online, as is the digital music composition course. And I don't have, as I said, I don't have concert bands at my school, but we do have excellent jazz combos. And if we get back to live teaching at some point this year, I'm hoping to get them swinging again, hopefully by January, but we'll see. So when in a normal year, when we're not in a pandemic, I have live students in the room with me, but everything that they do has an online component. They're learning things online and in person. That's what blended learning is, as opposed to tech-rich instruction, which is they learn everything in class, but then they use technology as a tool to learn things. Blended learning is they're using technology both in the classroom and at home, and they're learning new things in both places. Now, if you're doing completely online, they're learning everything online, and you really have to substitute those large ensemble experiences for other things. So that's basically all I have to share. My contact info is there at the bottom of this document that I shared with you. Feel free to reach out, and thanks for your time and listening to what I have to share tonight.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Our next person is my dad, Ron Kearns. Ron Kearns is a retired band, orchestra, and jazz teacher. He is the author of Quick Reference for Band Directors, Recording Tips for Music Educators, and Quick Reference for Band Directors who teach orchestra. Ron has won 3 Grammy Signature Schools Awards, Grammy Partner School Selection, received the SBO Magazine 50 Educators Who Make a Difference Award, Downbeat Magazine Outstanding Jazz Educator Award, and several Teacher of the Year awards. He is a Van Doren of Paris and Selmer of Paris performing artist and clinician. He has produced over 50 jazz recordings and writes for Van Doren and Shure Microphones. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Well, most of what you've heard so far deals with what you're going to do with the students in the classroom, which is the virtual classroom. But what I'm really talking about is how to go about getting those students into your class. This is probably one of the most challenging things that you'll come across while preparing for the virtual teaching, because one of the biggest things that we have to offer, especially on the high school level, for joining classes is the whole idea of socialization, especially for freshmen coming in. They're coming in, and band, orchestra, and chorus offer them the opportunity to take classes with upperclassmen. And band, orchestra, and chorus and other music classes are probably the only classes in the school that they're able to actually socialize with upperclassmen and feel like they're welcome to school. So one of the things that you have to try to do is figure out a way of being able to appeal to your students in ways that they know that they can get some of the gratification that they get out of actual performance in participating in virtual learning. One of the biggest attractions to your classes will be you. And in person, it's very easy for you to make these kinds of contacts and do as you see the students and have exchanges with them. But trying to do that virtually means that you're going to have to put in some extra effort. You're going to have to go online and check student records to find out who has had music classes in the middle school, elementary school, that you can attract if you're on the high school level. If you're on the elementary school level, then obviously you want to try to get students as pullouts. Well, without classes and without you having access to classes, it's going to be very difficult to pull out. So that's going to be an important part of being able to find out who actually has had music before and go around that and figure out ways with your administration on how you're going to teach multiple students in class situations for pullouts. On the middle school and high school level, one of the ways that you want to try to reach the students first is by reaching the parents. if you can reach the parents through a listserv or through a virtual newsletter or some kind of electronic communication, then you can get the parents to help you, because the parents have worked with the parents of other students as they've taken them to private lessons or as they've taken them to whatever school that leads up to your school, that feeds your school. So these parents know each other. And because music is also an economic thing, these parents have paid money for private lessons. They've paid money for rental instruments, or they've purchased instruments. And so they don't want to see that money wasted. So they're going to want to see their child involved in music, whether it's virtual or whether it's actually out in the real world for personal contact. So go through a way of communicating through a newsletter or some kind of Facebook page or other social media page where you can show the students that being involved in music, even on a virtual level, can still be fun for them. And one of the things that I used to always talk about was fun through excellence. And Tom just talked about that excellence thing, about the practice and how to use things like virtual music or other kinds of programs that allow the students to play into it and record it. Because as he said, one of the things that's going to happen is that they're going to be playing and they're going to be practicing as they're playing, because ego will cause them to want to get the most out. And so tie into that and get a healthy competitive kind of thing going with your students so that they feel like they are still having some kind of interaction with their classmates, even though they are in their home and their classmates are in their home. There's still ways of making it feel real to them. And that's the biggest thing about the recruitment. And one of the things about recruitment is once you get them in, keeping them engaged is your retaining. And if you want to retain them, then you have to use all of the things that you will be hearing tonight as the program goes on. And so without going too much in depth with this, these things are available in quick reference for band directors and quick reference for band directors who teach orchestra. And if you contact me without having to purchase the book, if you contact me, I will give you some of those ideas, and also in recording tips for music educators, some of the equipment that both Richard and Tom spoke of are found in the index of those books, in the appendixes of those books, and I will gladly share the information on the suggested prices, and to throw in a plug for Sweetwater. At sweetwater.com, you can go and find out the prices of most of the equipment that has been discussed and find out ways of being able to purchase them. And one of the things that you want to do, since you're not going to be in the classroom per se, other than the virtual classroom, you'll want to talk to your administration about ways of being able to fund some of the software purchases you're going to end up having to make and some of the other purchases, because you may not be spending as much money on other things like field trips, obviously. So that money can go toward your expenses for things that are going to be engaging the students. And once again, as I said, if you get the people to see that these are things that they need and these are things that they need to have in order to have fun, if the students are able to engage and have fun through excellence, then you will be able to bring them in, because word of mouth will definitely be the thing that will build you. But also you have to be very careful, because word of mouth can be the thing that will kill you. So you want to make sure that you are as comfortable as you could possibly be, because frustration breeds frustration. And if students find themselves too frustrated, they're not going to stay here. So with that, I'm going to move on. And if you have any questions about recruiting for the virtual lessons and things, feel free to contact me, and I will share those things with you rather than take up too much time talking about them now. So thank you.
And just to make sure, it's ronkearns.com, correct?
Yes, but the best way to reach me would be ronkearnsmusic@gmail.com or ronkearnsmusic@aol.com.
I just put that in the chat. Okay, thank you. Our next person is Robbie Burns. Robbie Burns is a middle school band director and percussionist living in Maryland. He teaches band and general music at Ellicott Mills Middle School and a studio of over 20 percussion students in his area. His first book, Digital Organization Tips for Music Teachers, published by Oxford University Press, is available for purchase. You can learn more about using technology to teach music by reading his blog and listening to his podcast, Music Ed Tech Talk, located at musicedtechtalk.com. I'll be putting both of those in the chat.
Is that me? Good to go?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, cool. So there's been some really excellent stuff that's already been spoken about. So what I want to try to do is maybe just piggyback off of some of the great things that have been shared so far, and some of the areas where I feel like I'm especially passionate about using technology, but also maybe just sort of highlight some of the things that I'm also doing that are really similar to others without rambling on about it too much. By the way, I'm gonna just piggyback here in the chat here. I didn't specifically give this to anyone to share, but I'm very accessible by email, and you'll see my blog, musicedtechtalk.com, is one way you can find my email and my Twitter and all those places. I'm pretty active on all the internet places, and super excited anytime anyone wants to talk about anything technology. So that's where I am. So, you know, Richard kicked us off with inspiring you to maybe think about some hardware that might really kick you off into the fall. And I am really very passionate about software. And I want to kind of just jump on that and say that, you know, some of the things that maybe you have been thinking about over these past 4 months that you think are pieces of computer software that might enhance your learning, and maybe you're ready to take the plunge on some of these, I just want to encourage you to be thinking about that and doing that, because, you know, as people who are creative in making art, but also people who are used to using our instruments, many of us, or our voice, as tools to being creative, you know, I've always thought of technology as an area that goes really hand in hand with my life as a musician and performer and teacher, because I often, you know, I want to express myself, and the more proficient I am in my instrument, the more freely I am able to express myself. So the same is true of learning computer software. So this might be the fall that maybe, like, if you're thinking about a video editor or an audio editor, or maybe even a more advanced notation editor, this might be the fall where you take the plunge. There's a lot of really good free and open source and cross-platform stuff. I am a little bit, admittedly, kind of into the Apple ecosystem. I always use Apple apps and third-party apps generally over a lot of the web stuff. But just so I'll throw this out there, since I know it's received a lot of buzz. You know, if you're looking for tools to make great video content, whether that's for your ensemble or just an introduction video, I think it's worth mentioning that Apple is running a 90-day free trial on Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro, which are two industry standard audio and video editing applications. And if you decide that after 90 days you really like it, you can actually, with an educator discount, you can actually get both apps for $200, which, if you don't know this, Final Cut Pro itself is $300 for a regular consumer. And you also get, in addition to those two apps, you get Mainstage, Compressor, a bunch of other pro audio and video apps that are associated with that. Another thing that I use in my own teaching workflow to make worksheets and reconstruct parts for my students digitally is Dorico, which is a fairly new, relative to the market, score editor. And they have a version now called SE that's actually free to use if you want to acclimate yourself with some of the features. And it's really good. I mean, I'm going to talk in a minute about getting some of your music digital, but that's one way if you want to be working with notation to do it. I guess I should just say what my topic is. So I agreed that I would talk a little bit about the performing arts perspective and how to be practical, but also maintain some of the same goals, you know, as we're moving forward. And Tom actually covered a lot of really good ground and provided some really, really thorough details about curriculum, which you know, by showing his syllabus, which is great. In my district, we don't have yet enough information for me to plan quite like that, but There are definitely, we have enough of a plan that I know that the year is going to be, it's going to look very different for us. Some of you might find yourself in a similar situation where you are going to an all online model this year, and you're thinking to yourself like, okay, I know all these tools that this panel is talking about. I know about Noteflight, I know about Soundtrap, I know about Music First, I know about all these tools, and I know that they're useful to me. How do I, best run a performing ensemble where these students come to the class every day to play their instrument? And, I think for me, there's kind of two words that were popping into my head as I was putting together some notes for today. And the first thing that I've really just been thinking about are like, what are my instructional goals? Because, band is not going to be what it used to be this year. It's just not going to be me standing on a podium and waving a baton. And it's not going to look like that. But that's not really what my instructional goals are. That's like an icing on top of the cake, that my students get this great experience to play music in a group together. But ultimately what my curricular goals are to be developing instrument skill. And, there's a whole lot of ways that I'm envisioning this can happen online. Tom hit a bunch of really great ones, including some of the supplementary software. For me, the challenge with teaching online and teaching instrument skill is, I can have a conversation with the student or a private student one-on-one over a Zoom call, and however much diminished the quality of my instrument audio is, my feedback is still as effective as ever. My voice, my thoughts, my ideas are not diminished. But something that we lose over the internet is the efficiency of the feedback loop. This ability to hear a group of students or one student play a thing and then really quickly use your what you've heard as a way to provide them feedback for how it can be better, and then for them to improve that performance based on that feedback. And, the cycle continues. So I've been trying to ask myself, what are the ways that I can keep my instructional goals and close that feedback loop most effectively? For me, we're in our district, we're going to a 4x4 model, which means that very unfortunately for us, that band is going to be a half a year class this year. So I'm going to see one of my band classes the first half of the year and the other the second half. And I actually have a really awesome colleague who teaches two other bands at my school. We each teach two bands and one general music. And so what we've done is we've said our school system is saying, we're going to teach 4 synchronous classes for each band every week. And we have determined that a synchronous band class of 60 is not going to be very meaningful 4 times a week. So we've been really kind of working through that and rethinking that. What we've decided to do, and if you're in a similar situation, what I would encourage you to do is really work with your administrators to be creative about scheduling. If you have not already had all of that decided and worked out yet, our administrators, when we brought to the table some of the challenges that we were facing, were very willing to hear us out and work with us on creating something that was creative. And we couldn't do anything we wanted to, but within the confines of our school system's policy, we were able to be very creative. And we looked at about 10 different options. We looked at, well, what if we split our bands into half woodwinds, half brass and percussion? What if we teach sectional blocks, but we pull the students from other non-synchronous times of the day, but then take the extra sectional blocks that we built into our calendar as extra planning time to make up for the time that we lose pulling smaller groups. And ultimately what we decided on was kind of a hybrid of a bunch of our different ideas, landing on maximizing the number of times we see a student a week, but trying to get those numbers of those groups as small as possible so that we're not losing that feedback loop. Another thing we're going to do, and I know Tom really did a great job explaining this, is, we're going to not be playing concert music in the same way that we have before. I don't know yet if we're going to play concert music at all, but it's certainly not going to be like the first day of 6th grade band last year where we just hit the ground running with large ensemble rehearsal. I see individual solo material and chamber music playing a very, very big role in how we teach, and especially in how we hold students accountable for being prepared. One of the things that was characteristic, I think, of my spring semester was that there were not a whole lot of expectations for students established yet. So it was a little bit, I think it's a little easy to hide behind the camera and whatever minimal assignments as a student you're given in a week. But I'm thinking that chamber music is going to provide everyone an opportunity to be a much more essential part of what they do. And then what we're going to do is break our woodwinds and brass class that we've already split up into 2 separate classes. Well, in a given synchronous class time, I'm actually going to break those up into even smaller groups. And until actually recently, I was going to just have multiple tabs of my web browser open with multiple different Google Meets and have all of them except for the one that I'm giving feedback to be muted. But my understanding is that Google Meet, which is our platform of choice, is actually introducing breakout rooms, hopefully before the fall. So whichever one of those 2 things I have to do, what a lot of the concert music part of the program looked like is going to be smaller ensemble music, small breakout groups in separate Google Meets or separate rooms of a Google Meet. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have them actually take the initiative of rehearsing and recording themselves together in a collaborative digital audio workstation, much like Soundtrap, which I imagine Jim might talk a little bit about Soundtrap if it's part of it. So all you need to know is that Soundtrap is like running a GarageBand in a web browser tab. It's got collaborative stuff. Students can all be in the same place. And I have, I just have to tell you, I have never done this in my band before, but having taught general music and having a piano curriculum be a part of a component of that curriculum, I've learned that the second you give a piano assignment, but all you do is add the expectation that they record it to a click track, suddenly everything implodes and you learn so many things about how you have been teaching rhythm and tempo up until this point in your life and how your students have very, very big misconceptions about it. There's going to be a lot of teaching to the technology tools, but I think that our students will come out better on the other side if they're thinking about things like, oh, it matters how many beats in a measure there are. It matters that I don't rush just a little bit here, because then a little bit here over time is now a whole click ahead of my other colleagues who are in this small ensemble with me. So by doing this together, we're thinking that we're going to be able to create an engaging student-run, student-centered model for developing instrument skill. And then, of course, by teaching the technology tools, if we decide that we want to do any kind of virtual band making, our students will be able to do part of that, at least part of that process with us along the way. I did do a virtual band video for each of my ensembles last year. But as I reflect on it, I tried to make that an instructive process, not just something where I took a video submission and then spent all of my life editing. It was definitely something where we did multiple takes and provided feedback for one another, and there were rubrics, and students were receiving feedback from me on a week-to-week basis. And then, even when we finally watched the edited video that I had made of all of their separate parts on screen at the same time, it really struck me that, that was only really possible to the extent that I was able to do it because we had 3/4 of every day playing together in band. So I'm keeping an open mind. I think that is definitely a motivating thing. I've got a blog post that I'll dump in the chat where I kind of go through my process for making a virtual band video, but I'm not thinking in terms of concert music so much this year. We're looking at some other digital tools that are going to eliminate some of the challenges. We've got a sequence of songs that we have each of our students play for individual skill development, and we have a really great system for providing feedback and grading them on that. That's just simply not going to work with the tools that we have this year. So we're looking at things like, can we be looking at Note Flight Learn or Practice First, or some of these tools for the analysis and at least some of the feedback. Like, I know these tools won't tell our students which notes are in tune or not, but they'll at least tell them if they played a wrong note and give them a reason to take their instrument out again and try again. One other tool, and then I'll be done, is I'm really looking at an application called Flipgrid as a possible video platform for having a little bit more of an informal submission dialogue happening with my students. Canvas, our learning management system, will be the place that they turn in formal work that is graded, but Flipgrid is a really, really great video submission app. It's like a web app that has gives students the opportunity to record and upload video. It kind of looks and feels like Instagram. It's got this kind of social media stylized user interface where you can provide a topic for the week and then have all of your students upload a video. And I'm thinking of doing this as just, again, another way during a difficult time to have a student wanting to take out their instrument out of its case. So not that the scale performance test is on Flipgrid, but instead, you know, like play a song that you really like and we'll see if we can guess what it is. And then having all the students respond and interact with video with one another. So those are just a couple of things I'm looking at. You know, I do, if any of this interests you, or if you just want to learn more, honestly, my technology wheelhouse is a little bit more organization and personal productivity. And I write about all this stuff on my blog. So if you want to read more, I've got a podcast and a blog, and I'm available by email. Happy to be helpful in any way I can.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thank you, Robbie. Our next speaker is Katie Wardrobe. Katie Wardrobe is a Melbourne-based music technology speaker, trainer, consultant, blogger, and podcaster who is passionate about helping music teachers through her business, Midnight Music. She offers online training and support to music teachers all over the world through her music technology professional development online community, the Midnight Music Community. Katie also runs hands-on workshops and presents regularly at conferences in Australia and overseas, of course, when there's no worldwide pandemic. Take it away, Katie.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. I know it's not morning for many of you, but hopefully there's a few of you on who are here in Australia with me as well. So I thought I would talk about some different things to what everyone else has covered here today. And I'm actually putting together at the moment a free webinar that I'm running next week. And I did want to highlight a couple of things from that because I think they're useful tools for people to know about. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this will be all good. All right, I think we're all good there. So let me just go into a better mode here. Hold on. Does that look better? Hopefully, good. I wanted to just highlight a few tech tools that I think are really useful to increase engagement. So I really noticed a trend over the last few months. Back in March, there was mass panic and everyone was in survival mode. I think we can all agree that that was the case, and it really was all over the world. And at that point, it was just a case of kind of get by and learn the basics. What do we need to do to operate in an online sort of remote learning world? Everybody was thrown into that very suddenly. And so I could see that people just needed to kind of get a handle on those basics like video conferencing and screencasting to create your own teaching materials and learning your LMS and so a few other things like that. Now I feel like there was this survival mode that everybody got through. And I know in the States, obviously you've finished up your school year and now you're about to start a new one. Here in Australia, Southern Hemisphere, we're halfway through our school year, but we are actually also experiencing what I'm calling the second wave of teaching, where people are now kind of got a handle on those basics and maybe want to look at improving the delivery of the content in order to increase engagement and motivation amongst students. So I haven't really got a lot of slides here. I just got a few that I thought I'd highlight, but I think that there's a couple of ways that you can do this by using some tech tools to facilitate two-way interaction. So it's not always a passive receiving of information by the students, but getting them to actually be able to be involved, even when you're doing synchronous lessons or asynchronous lessons. And I think sometimes there's a way you can maybe reframe the content that you're teaching in order to increase motivation. So I'll touch on a couple of those things in a second. The thing that I think is really important is that we all consider whatever you're doing, that it's going to work in all of these situations that you can see on the screen here, because things can change so fast. Here in Melbourne, where I live, we actually almost got back to normal. Our schools went back. All the shops reopened. We were able to be social with one another in groups of, I think, up to 20, maybe we even got to 50. We are back down to full lockdown mode here. We can't leave our houses except for essential services. The school's about to remote learning again, and things have changed so fast. So I think it's really useful to prepare for all of these situations. And I think there's some tech tools which are super useful that will work in all of these scenarios. So you can prepare your materials, and then it won't matter whether you're teaching remotely or face-to-face or in a hybrid situation or from a cart, because I know some of you are having to do that. So here's just a handful of things I thought I might just touch on today. And the free webinar that I'm running next week, I'm going to go into a lot more detail for all of these. So not so much time to do that today. But I did want to mention just a handful of things. And I think all of these you can use free versions of the software, but there's extra amazing features, obviously, if you are able to pay for their sort of upgrade versions. So Pear Deck and Nearpod are super useful Google Slides add-ons, which you can use, and they will allow you to create interactive presentations with your students. So if you can imagine them in class and you're teaching them and delivering content via Google Slides, you can actually populate some of the slides with questions that students can answer on the spot. So you can add things like a text question where they're writing an answer in a text box. You can add a multiple choice question, and you set this up ahead of time, but when you're actually running the lesson, the questions will show up on the screen for the students as you're going. You can get their questions in real time. You can show them on the screen for the whole class to discuss if you want that. And they don't have to have the student's name on. And I think by default, Pear Deck doesn't have the student's name on the answers. So students can kind of feel comfortable in answering questions anonymously. You as the teacher can see later on if you need to understand who's answered the questions in order for sort of grading and assessment purposes. But these are really fantastic tools. It's very hard to describe them without you actually seeing them and how they work, and I can highly recommend watching some videos on YouTube. There's a teacher in the States whose name is Sam Carey, I think from memory, K-A-R-Y, and he runs a YouTube channel called The New EdTech Classroom. I hope I've got that correct. He has some fantastic walkthrough videos of both of these tools, and Edpuzzle and Padlet as well, which I'm about to talk about. But he really goes into some detail and shows how you can set things up and how you can use them. He doesn't give music specific examples, so that I'm going to do next week when I talk about them, but you can get an idea of how they work, and I think there's ways you can see in his videos that you can apply to the music classroom. So I really love those. I think they're fantastic tools to use. Now, Pear Deck and Nearpod both have a fantastic option, which I need to actually play with myself, which is the option for students to draw a response to a question that you've asked. Now, this is a paid feature for Pear Deck. It's not one of their free options, but it may well be worth upgrading just for this, because I think it means that it's going to be great because students will be able to see a music question, a music notation type question on the screen, and they will be able to draw what you need them to draw. So I'm thinking things like notation, and particularly if you need students to maybe fill in the gaps of the measure so that it adds up to 4 times signature, you could get them to write their answer into the screen there. If you need them to show you what are the sharps that D major key signature consists of, you could get them to draw that onto the screen. So I think these are fantastic tools for just encouraging that interaction and that two-way working in your lesson, rather than just being a passive delivery of material. The other great thing about these tools is you can use them asynchronously, so you can set up the slideshow and the students don't have to be doing this while you're actually teaching the class. They can actually get hold of the link, join that session, and actually answer the questions in their own time. So this is really good if you can't have all of your students online all the time. I know that's a barrier for some, and so you can still give them that same experience. Now, Edpuzzle, another fantastic tool, and this is one, if you haven't explored Edpuzzle, it's kind of life-changing, I think, because it's a way that you can make any video, YouTube videos or your own videos, more interactive by adding questions throughout the video itself. So you can set up some questions that pop up at a certain time in the video, and the students will answer those, and then you'll get the answers in the back end for teaching purposes, for assessment purposes. So Edpuzzle's fantastic. You can use this for all sorts of things. It might be maybe a critique on a performance of some sort. You could do a listening exercise. You can say to students, okay, listen to the next section that's coming up, and I want you to tell me what is the instrument that's playing the solo, or what is the chord progression that the band's playing in the chorus that's coming up. And then the students can write their answers in and submit that to you. So again, you can have an open text question, you can have long answer questions, you can have multiple choice questions, and so on. And one of the benefits of Edpuzzle is that you can actually, when you're setting up your questions within the video, you can actually cut out sections that you don't even need for your lesson. So if the person whose video it is on YouTube, they talk for a couple of minutes at the beginning about something that's irrelevant to your lesson, you can actually cut that bit out and jump straight to the part that you actually want to show. The other thing you can do with Edpuzzle is upload your own videos for use. So if you've made some teaching videos in the last period of teaching remotely, and you want to now sort of make them more interactive and have the questions that come up throughout the video, rather than just the students fill out answers separately in a form or on a piece of paper, you could upload your own videos and add your questions to it that way. So again, just a super useful tool. Padlet I've got on there. Padlet's a great tool. It's kind of like an interactive bulletin board, I suppose you could say. And it allows you to have a group of students all contribute to a conversation about something. It looks like you're adding sticky notes to a board. So you as a teacher can set it up in multiple ways, and you can have students all contributing something to an online discussion. The way I've used Padlet in the past is I've set up a Musical Me Padlet board where students are going to share musical information, facts about themselves. So a favourite band or a favourite TED talk about music that they like, or who was the person that influenced you the most with your instrument or your music motivation. And they can all contribute little sticky notes to the board to let you know about their thoughts and their feelings. And it allows you to add lots of information in lots of different ways. So you can add a text sticky note. They could add a video, a link to a video. They could add a Google Map place. So if you're talking about places where composers live, for instance, you could add that. Can't remember what else there is, but there's other multimedia options there as well. So Padlet's a great way to sort of get a group of students all contributing to one discussion. If you have a paid account for Padlet, students can have their own Padlet boards, and they could each be creating their own environment. But if you're just using the free account, you get 3 Padlet boards to use or to have active at a certain time. And you can use the 3 of them. If you reach your limit of 3 and you need a 4th one, you just need to archive or delete one of the previous ones, and then you can start a fresh one. Now, the last 2 things I wanted to talk about are not necessarily specific tech tools, but these are more to do with how you frame your content, I think. So I have been exploring digital badges for more than a year now, and I love this as a way of motivating students, and actually it works really well with adults, just between you and me. I've used digital badges in a free challenge that I ran last year. So we had 5 challenges that people had to complete, and for each one of them they got a digital badge. Now, a digital badge is literally just an image which looks like a badge or a sticker, kind of like what you would have had in the Scouts, I suppose. And it's just a great way to set some levels or goals or things that you want your students to achieve, and have it laid out for them. So, hey, if you do this, you're going to achieve this badge. I just ran a Canva course recently, and one of the modules was about creating digital badges for your students, and the participants in the course came up with amazing things. So some people did, just as examples for music, some people created digital badges for recorder karate, as an example. I had a string teacher who created some badges which included achievements like correctly holding the bow, or playing with good intonation. That was just one badge, one achievement. So you can make them as smaller goals as you like, or as big as you like. The last thing I want to touch on just briefly is this idea of gamification. And there are so many ways you can approach this, but if you're thinking about a way to kind of reframe your content or make it a little bit more exciting, you can gamify almost anything, and it can be really dry things, which you can turn into something a little bit more exciting. So things I'm thinking of in this category include maybe an escape room. So this would be a sort of a short gamification option. An escape room, I know probably many of you have seen these online. It's just a way to present a series of worksheets or problems that students have to solve, and then they need to escape from the room. I won't go into too much detail about that because this is the subject of another whole session on its own. But if you look up escape room, you'll find lots of resources online. But essentially, you can set this up in a totally digital way. If you were in person in the classroom, you could have a physical escape room where students go around the classroom. They find a physical thing to solve or do or unlock. But digitally, you can actually do it all within a Google form. And there are sort of small problems that they're going to solve to unlock sections of the form and eventually complete the escape room and escape from the room. So I love this as a short thing. This is great for something that might last a single lesson, as an example. Now, longer gamification options include a quest or a challenge of some sort, and you can make this last for a few weeks, a whole unit of work. It could last for a whole semester if you wanted to. And I have actually someone in my community who's been talking about the way he's been gamifying his students' work. And he is actually teaching band students, I think, from memory. But he's had a whole long quest which he's worked out. There's like a whole land where it looks kind of like Lord of the Rings maps. He's created a fictional world that they are all working through. They have to get from one end to the other. There are side quests where they earn extra points on the side for bonus activities. But essentially, the students working their way through this quest is just them completing your everyday normal assignments that they would do in band or orchestra or chorus or general music. And all he's done is reframe it with a gamification angle. And he said the students are totally motivated with it. All of the side quests, which are completely optional, they love because they're earning points on a leaderboard, and it's lifting them up and up this leaderboard. So, and it's just another way of framing the information. So I hope that's a few ideas. I know I've been pretty brief about it, but I would be happy to chat in the chat room about any other questions you might have. But I will talk about these things in more detail at this webinar next week. So if you want to come and see screenshots of what these things look like, and I'll talk a little bit about specific music examples and show you some of the things that I'm thinking for these tools, feel free to come along. I've actually got a link which I'll show you here. And I'll stop sharing my screen in a second. So that's the link for the free webinar if you want to come along. It's basically on Wednesday my time, Tuesday for those of you in the States, 8 p.m. US Eastern Standard Time, Daylight Time, and 10 a.m. Melbourne time for those in Australia. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen if I can. Good with technology. Yeah, so that's it. So thanks, everyone. I'm going to hand over to Jim, I think, or back to Tiffany, I should say. But good luck with the start of the new school year for those of you who are starting off again.
Thank you, Katie. Gamification is really fun. So the kids love it and adults love it too. We use that at our school as well. Our final presenter, last but not least, is Dr. Jim Frankel. Dr. Jim Frankel is the head of digital education for Wise Music and director of Music First. Previously, he was the managing director of Soundtree, and before that, he was the instrumental and general music teacher for 15 years in New Jersey public schools. Jim is a widely published author in various state, national, and international journals of music education. He is the author of The Teacher's Guide to Music, Media, and Copyright Law, co-author of YouTube and Music Education, contributing author for Critical Issues in Music Education, and co-author of Making Music with GarageBand and Mixcraft. In addition to his writing, Jim is a highly sought-after clinician and keynote speaker in the local, national, and international music education community. He is on the board of directors for Time, NJMEA, and is the past president of ATMI. Take it away, Jim.
Great, thank you. And thanks for everyone for sticking around. First of all, you heard some fantastic speakers already. They gave you a lot of ideas directly from the classroom. So I run a company called Music First, and on Friday, the 13th of March, I led a webinar that was basically saying, all right, folks, here we go. This is what the future might look like. And unfortunately I was right. And that was that we were going to be remote for the rest of the year. And I think everyone deep down knew that. But I live in New York, and we're not sure what the heck we're going to be doing. We're a little bit better off than some other sections of the country, but it will highly likely be a blended hybrid type of thing. And, you know, I think Music First is a great option. Robbie mentioned a bunch of the software that we use. Tom, I'm very happy to hear that you're jumping on the Music First bandwagon. It's great. So I'm going to just quickly dive in. I'm not going to take a lot of your time. I put 2 links in the chat box, and I would just, because of the amount of time you know, that we all have, and I respect that it's 9:30 at night and you guys are still doing PD. First of all, we just did a huge conference last week called musicedtechconference.com. We had over 9,000 people attend. Go to that website, click on sessions, and there are 21 sessions. There's some really fabulous stuff if you want 21 hours of PD. It's actually, you can get a 6-hour PD certificate if you're really interested. Just my email is jim@musicfirst.com. You can just get in touch with me. But I'm going to dive right into the Music First classroom. And I think it was either Robbie or Tom that said that this stuff takes time. It takes a lot of time. And the reason why people are right now being drawn to what we do is this kind of holistic, comprehensive approach, but we try to save you as much time as possible by already including a ton of content, a ton of quizzes, a ton of activities that you can do. So first of all, we are by far the most comprehensive online software platform. So there are 10 software titles. We just added Flat, which is fantastic. So you've got Aurelia, ear training, Flat notation, Focus on Sound is an encyclopedia with hundreds and hundreds of pre-made tests, which everyone loves. Musician is music theory. Aurelia and Musician are from Australia. They're a great friend of mine, Peter Lee, and those have hundreds and hundreds of quizzes already made. Note Flight Learn is fabulous. They have over 300 worksheets that you can do. They just added an assessment product called Soundcheck, and they've also added Essential Elements. If your students have the print book, they can unlock it in Note Flight Learn, which is super cool. Generator is for kids who just want to make beats, which is every kid. Practice First is our answer to smart music. We have a lot of people jumping from the smart music ship into the Music First, Practice First ship. We don't have as much repertoire. We're proud of that. We never tried to. It is a fantastic assessment algorithm, and I urge you to check it. It's extraordinary. And we just added 25 method books, and we are adding content all the time. So it's great. Sight Reading Factory, by far the best sight reading tool out there. And then Soundation and Soundtrap are our GarageBand-like software. The reason that we have Soundation and Soundtrap, kind of like with Flat and No Flight, it's really, what do you like more? And I've always described this to my staff. I want to be the UN of music software. I don't care what software we include in here. If Smart Music ever wants to jump in, please do. Breezing Through Theory, I don't care. This is a great, what Music First is a learning management system built just for music teachers that ties all of this together into one grade book with tons of pre-made content. So hopefully that makes sense. We've got a resources tab. So Robbie mentioned Flipgrid. You can embed Flipgrids right into a task, give the kids a quiz. We've got a magazine, Tune Monthly. We've got music theory that we've done we think a really neat integration of. So you can give your kids musictheory.net assignments and have them hand it directly to a grade book rather than through a link or an email. It's a huge time saver, believe me. Shed the Music, my dear friend Bob Habersat out in Illinois made its Khan Academy for Music Education. And then Spotify, you can embed any Spotify playlist or tracks for your students. Content, and I'm literally giving you the whistle stop tour, so I'm not going to show you a ton, but this is my favorite part of the site. We have 6 huge buckets of content, right? And we organized this last summer. So let's say, hey, I'm a middle school band director. That's what I did. I was middle school band and general music. I've seen so many posts on the music teachers group about I just got told I'm teaching general music this year. I'm not a band director anymore, just for the year. And I know that that can really deflate every bit of you, but you still have a job. So keep going, get through it, right? So first of all, in the band category, one of my dear friends, Shauna Longo, just added a whole bunch of social emotional learning lesson plans for band, but we have courses. So these are pre-made courses where everything, I wrote these courses, so I'm proud of them. Here's a middle school band course, hundreds and hundreds of 10 categories, hundreds of pre-made assignments. They're already done for you. You don't have to go into Google Slides and make a 10-question quiz about fingerings for instruments. I already did all that. I literally sat down 2 summers ago and spent about 200 hours making these courses, literally. And so there's a ton of pre-made stuff in here. And if you go, oh my God, this is perfect. I'm to start teaching next week. I had no idea what I was going to do. Just come over, click use course now. And I think it was Ellicott Mills Middle School Band. I spelled that wrong. Sorry, Robbie. Create class. I now copy all of that content, that entire band course, and I bring it into a brand new class. I add my students. I go to my class calendar, which is what I call the plan book. And I literally go, okay, so the first day of school is September 8th. Let's go and find a good, hey, we're going to do the instrument families on September 8th. Click, drag, let go. Okay, when is that reflection due? That'll be due on Thursday. The second reflection will be due on the following Monday. Then we're going to space these assignments out. By the way, what I'm doing is literally adding these assignments for the students. That was pretty darn cool. If I wanted to say, well, what did I actually just assign? You can go in and preview everything, obviously. You can go in and see it. You can edit it. You can change it. You could add your own stuff. So we took all of the band videos from the United States military bands, added them in. We have quizzes that are pre-made, ready to go. It's a ton of stuff. So I'll go to the content real quick, and I'll be done in about 2 or 3 more minutes. In the general music, we have 5 courses of study. We just added social emotional learning there as well. But we've got an intro to pop music, which is everything under the sun, intro to jazz, musical styles. I personally am offended by things called world music and then the history, music history. I don't believe in that at all, where it's one big world with a lot of different music. So we call it musical styles course. It's my own little kind of hey. So when we go in there, if you want to preview any of these courses, you can go in and check it out. And we have music, of course, from the Western tradition, but also from all the other great places in the world that had amazing music traditions. And then you can go in there and decide which one of these you want to use, what do you want to do with your kids, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a massive content library. You can make your own, of course. I'm going to do one thing for you because a lot of people always, unfortunately, the thing they ask us for the most is practice first, because there's so many, they're like, I'm doing choir, I'm doing orchestra, I'm doing band. How on earth do I engage my kids? Just to show you this super quick, and by the way, it works on phones, which Smart Music can't say, at least yet. I'm sure they're working feverishly to do that. But just super quick, I'm going to sing for you. I apologize in advance. It'll be my big finale. So here we go. NISMA, sight singing. Let's do level 1, exercise 2. I apologize in advance. I'm going to click bass. I'm going to click record. I'm going to actually try my best to not get any mistakes. I will still get some. Here we go. It gives me a starting pitch. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. I think I nailed that one. So what we do with the feedback, and I just skip right through the grade, is we actually tell you exactly what you did wrong. We don't just color the note head and say yes or no. We give all this super detailed feedback. I hope you can see that. I pretty much nailed it. Oh, it says I wrong note D. Thank you. I appreciate that. So it's telling me all of my intonation errors, which is what I did wrong. Anyway, super cool. I hope you, again, what we can do is, just in the interest of time, I'm going to wrap things up now. I'll stop sharing my screen. Okay, and so if you go to musicfirst.com in the upper right-hand corner, there's a free trial button. We'll give it to you for 30 days to try out. And also go to that music ed. My dear friend Amy Burns is on. Amy Burns was one of our presenters at that conference. Her session is awesome. It's a whistle-stop tour of every single thing there is for elementary music, so you should definitely check that out. Anyway, I'll tell you right now, at Music First, we are signing up entire counties and cities. Our business is through the roof because it's such a holistic and comprehensive kind of approach rather than just one lane, like one software tool. And like Robbie was saying, you know, something with Flipgrid, hey, I want to try that. You can put everything into our platform, and then you can, it links to Google Classroom, so you can share anything in Google Classroom. You can use it in Remind. If you're using Canvas or Schoology, you just copy our unique URLs, and it's safe and secure. So that's the 9-10 minute version. I hope you appreciate it. I hope you like that. And please go to musicfirst.com and click on that free trial. Thanks very much. I appreciate the opportunity, Ron and Tiffany and Robbie and Tom and Katie for chatting with you all, and everyone for you being here this late at night on a non-school night is pretty extraordinary. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. I tell you, all of these resources have been absolutely great, between Katie's information at Midnight Music and between yours, Jim. We really appreciate that, because that's what this whole thing was about, to be able to guide you to the resources that would be so helpful. Because her name has been called so much, I don't want to put her on the spot, but we've heard Amy's name called too much not to have her say something. So Amy, if you'll give us your 2-hour presentation wrapped into about 10 minutes, that'd be great.
Aw, thanks, Ron. I'm not going to go 10 minutes. Actually, if you want, you can check tomorrow night, and Katie is a godsend because she's helping me stream. Normally, MuseTech.net live is Thursdays at 7 on our Facebook page, and so Joe and Jeff are off this month, but I was kind of like, hey, you know what, I'm going to show Seesaw for LMuseEd because they just updated. And so Katie jumped in and said, Amy, I'm going to show you how you can stream professionally. I was like, yay, Katie, thank you. So we're streaming tomorrow night professionally off of Facebook and onto my YouTube channel. Thank you, Katie. That's so awesome. And it's really just Seesaw for getting LMuseEd. It's updates. And then in 2 weeks, I think I'm going to tackle the Flipgrid updates, because Flipgrid updated today. If you didn't even check that out, there's some really cool features like the coach feature on Flipgrid, which I know I'm going to be using with 8th graders who have to do presentation skills, because it will actually go through their presentation skills. There's also, I think they're calling it now, instead of grids, groups and topics, and there's so many cool things that you can do with it on the updates. I'm going to be diving into it, but mostly I'm really excited that I have a book coming out that Richard reviewed. Thank you, Richard. And it's using technology with elementary music approaches, and it includes Dr. Feyerabend's First Steps approach, the foreword written by Dr. Missy, and then the Kodai approach, using technology with Kodai approach, written by the foreword is written by Glennis Patterson, and then the Orff Schulich approach, and the foreword is written by Ardith Collins, and then Cherie Herring is always my partner in crime when we go presenting together, because she works in a private school in elementary music, and she helped me do the project-based learning chapter. And so it's all these lessons that are integrating technology into these specific approaches, written by pretty much the gurus in those approaches, or the proteges of the gurus in those approaches, and with a supplemental website for all the manipulatives that go along with the book. So the book is coming out officially September 1st, and the website is ready, and hopefully will also coincide to come out September 1st. So that's the exciting stuff, but it's 9:43, so thanks so much for listening, and Ron, thanks for asking me.
You're welcome. We're going to close things out. And once again, I'd like to remind you that if you have questions, we provided you with the details for how to contact any of us to ask questions or to have any kind of follow-ups. Obviously, because there's so many people involved, we can't have physical questions asked, but please take out time now, dialogue box, to ask any questions. or contact each of us on our way. This was in no way designed to be any kind of self-promotion or try to get any of us any attention from you. Our efforts here are solely to give music educators more of a voice in how to manage virtual instruction. Most of the people that are making decisions on virtual instruction have absolutely no idea what to do with the arts and specifically what to do with music. And so what we want to do, and what our hope is to empower you to know what questions to ask, know what resources are available, and tell your administrators, these are the places I want to be able to go to secure the things I need to be the best possible teacher I can be. And the whole thing that we want you to remember is that your title of teacher has not changed. You just happen to be changing the way you teach. But the whole purpose of what we're doing is to keep students first. Make sure that whatever you do, you understand that students are having as much, if not more, difficulty in adjusting to this than you are. And because you are a professional and because you are the one who sets the tone of the classroom, you're the one who sets the tone of the virtual classroom also. So panic and frustration breeds frustration. So the least amount of frustration you can have are reaching out and asking and just being involved, even if it's just asking questions on the music teacher's site, posting a question on the music teacher's site, just get somebody to give you some kind of feedback to help your comfort level. That's what this whole thing is about. And hopefully we'll be able to have it up and archived so that if you missed any parts of it, you can go back through and you can listen and tell your friends and colleagues who might have missed this, what they've missed. Once again, I want to thank all of the panelists who joined us, but more importantly, I want to thank all of you who took out your time to come be with us while we try to help our profession and try to help keep music in school. So thank you and have a blessed evening. And I will hopefully be able to see and talk to some of you personally at some point in time. But for now, you are all my virtual friends. Take care.
I also put in the chat that we will be compiling all the frequently asked questions. Most of you, I was able to answer questions via DM, and other panelists were able to answer your questions in real time. But in the event that any question was unanswered, please contact those different people or put it directly into the music teacher group and we'll see it as we approve.
Yes. And before I go, thank you so much, Robbie Burns, for making the Zoom connection possible for us. Had it not been for you, none of this would be possible. So thank you so much. And good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.